Can I have one, please, Eric?
Hey, can you make it? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You need to about 10 or 15 minutes. You can free stop a few minutes. if you want.
At any point, can we ask questions?
Wait, 3, Carrie's online. They've got
I have pushed questions from the old draft that I would like to ask about.
you were on.
Start the meeting.
How many do you guys want to have public discussion for a few minutes? You mentioned.
Yeah, we talked about doing that. What is this? What am I looking at right here? That's, oh, okay, that's not what I'm looking at. Okay, do you want to go ahead? This is 8:31.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Over microphone.
I'd like to call this meeting to order on May 2nd at 8:30 for the joint meeting and the select board.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Woodstock Village Board of Trustees at 8:31 on Thursday, May 2nd, joint meeting with the Select Board. First item is we wanted to give the thing ready.
What thing?
Oh, the agenda.
No.
Oh, okay. We wanted to start off with public comment because from last night, we made a couple of changes that I'm gonna let either Eric or Stephen go over.
Steven will them, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do 10 minutes for public comment, about 2 minutes each, and you're gonna time. So is there anybody, the one person in the room, would you like to make a couple of public comment?
You could be mine.
Yeah. We can check to see if there's anybody on Zoom. Is there anybody on Zoom?
As of right now, no.
Sure.
Christina Martin, Woodstock. I live in the boonies.
And you have an STR?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I've been coming to lots of meetings and doing lots of emails and such to everybody, and I feel as if there have been some good changes that will help me and folks like me. So I appreciate the dropping of the fees, and I know that that's not part of the ordinance, I think. The fee structure can change as we, yeah, okay, so I got that right. I think I just want to make sure that our voices are heard once again concerning the regulations that are put on us in terms of the kind of hosting we can continue to do for the village, for our state, for all the wonderful visitors that come and stay with us here. I think it's really important that we don't micromanage so much that we lose some of just the basic beauty that we can offer to folks who've never been here before or who love. I have a lot of people that come back and stay. They just love it here. And I want to continue to be able to host with an open heart, as I mentioned before, and feel proud of this town and not as if we're operating maybe out of fear of what might happen in the future. My goodness, we've got to put all these, carefully crafted, thought out, hopefully appropriate restrictions so that we don't get into trouble down the road. But let's not lose the absolute basic beauty that we have in this town, which started years and years ago to open our homes to visitors so they can appreciate what. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will not comment on public comment, but I just want to thank you. You've come to every single meeting that I'm aware of. You've emailed myself and the board after this process. And this is kind of public engagement we want from our residents. Come to these meetings, talk to us, help shape what the select board and trustees end up doing. And you've done that, so I want to thank you. Also, as we talked about publicly, this is the ordinance, but we're gonna review this as it goes through, so I encourage you to continue to attend meetings, ask questions, attend the planning commission meeting, and kind of really help shape any changes we make in the future. Thank you.
Christine, you and others who have shown up have made a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, no, you have. We've, yes, taken into consideration.
Are there any other comments on Zoom that you see?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, then, next I'd like to move into just a quick review of the changes that we made last night. Before we go on, do you want to do that or?
I'm gonna ask Stephen Bauer, the
Okay.
plan and zoning administrator, to do it. He had a planning commission meeting last night after our meeting, and then put together the change the ordinance last night and this morning. So I feel he should at least get to present the changes, and we wasted his whole night doing it, so.
It's okay to fall asleep while proofreading, right? Morning, everyone. Stephen Bauer, Director of Planning and Zoning. Just gonna share my screen so we can walk through this. I did catch in that proofreading a couple other things, but I'm gonna first share my screen and discuss.
So I can see better. Not bring my glasses.
The kind of two major things that stuck last night. So one, I'll direct you to the definition of owner occupied, which is on page 4, starting on line 1. So we added in, so we struck the whole definition of owner occupied. Again, just to remind everyone, for the purpose of clarifying this, so we had taught that there's kind of a discrepancy of whether or not a parcel that is zoned owner occupied. So that has now changed to clarify that to say an owner occupied means a parcel, not a parcel and a home that meets the definition of Vermont homestead as determined by the Vermont Department of Taxes. So that clarifies that. Any questions there? Okay, and then really the next big thing would be last night the board solidified the fee schedule. And so I'll say we needed to make references, change the references to that. So
Stephen has one question before that.
Yep.
Section 5, page 5, short-term rental officer. Do we currently have a short-term rental officer, or does the board may appoint one?
nope, this will be a brand new appointment. So, and I was going to talk about that on the second wave, but we can.
No,
I mean,
sorry,
it's
go ahead.
simple enough. We can talk about it right now. So we don't have a short-term rental officer. So as soon as this is adopted, we need to have one because the ordinance calls for it. So that's why I have unless and until, so making the default the zoning administrative officer for the town until we go through the process and if the select board and trustees appoint a short-term rental officer. So that could end up being the administrative officer, but that just calls out that you need to appoint one because we don't currently have
Thank you.
one. So then the reference, there's a couple references to the fees that have been removed. That was specifically, so I'll turn to page 9, line 14. That's here. That's just removing when we had the fee schedule was in the ordinance. Obviously, we have to remove that because section 9 is just points to the adopted fee schedule. So we eliminate that reference. And then there's another reference.
There's one on page 7 as well. line 20.
Thank you, Eric. Yep, that's the other reference. So page 7, line 20. So those are the major changes from last night, and if you have any questions on that.
And just where's the listed unlimited instead of the 80?
So the removal of that would be, well, it's now not listed because we don't have a cap on it, but where that was removed from would be section. Yes. So now if you look, it's no longer there.
So the lack of specificity means that it's unlimited.
Correct. So we haven't placed any express limit on the amount of days. The only other small things as we walk through, so this is just in proofreading, words that don't need to exist under section 1, removing collectively, because we already say these two boards adopt, so we don't, it's redundant to have collectively. Same as with the administrative in 5 that you saw before. The section 5 administration. So where we just were on section B, line 18 on page 5. So if you go below that, it says 1 select board and trustee shall appoint short-term rental officer. And it says that short-term rental officer. So unless and until the select board, rather than just saying otherwise jointly appointed, again, removing the redundancy. Removal, the short-term rental officer may be removed for cause at any time by action of the select board and trustees. That's what we mean by a vote. So again, redundant. If there's any other things that I caught.
Other one. On page 12, 7.
Yep.
Got those specifics because you wanted to, because we have to just be broad. Took out to host various conferences, family reunions, wedding.
Yep. So the concern there is just simply the number of parking spaces that are taken up. It has nothing to do with any specific reason for why. So it's best just to remove that, the specificity for a party conference. That's not the point of the ordinance. The point of the ordinance is in this,
So use it.
not the gathering itself. It's the accumulation of the vehicles beyond the number of guests. And then you'll see obviously section 9, how that changed. There was a fee schedule. We decided last night to remove that fee schedule and insert this language that just says the trustees and select board shall adopt those fees. Separate of this. That is all the changes I have on that. Do you want to review the fee schedule now?
Yeah, well, just I want to make sure that, is everybody, do any of the trustees or select board have any questions about the ordinance separate from the schedule? We can keep-
I do.
Okay, and so. We're gonna vote, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and Eric, what's the, she stays up here and makes a comment? or-
Once she recruits herself, she should step away from the table.
Okay.
At this point, I don't think she has recused herself yet, so once she
Okay.
officially recused herself, then she should step away from the conversation and sit down with the public.
I recuse myself.
Okay. That is now, we're past public comment, but since you've now accused yourself, I think we can take
Alright.
your comment
So-
Yeah.
in the audience, yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, trustees, select board, everybody's,
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
So looking over the ordinance last
What's your name?
night- Oh, excuse me, my name is Brenda Blakeman. I live in the village of Woodstock, Vermont.
You have 2 SDers, right?
I do. So a few of the things that I noticed last night going over this is, number one, I didn't see any reference to hotels, inns, and bed and breakfast that also advertise on short-term rental platforms? How is that going to work?
So, Sierra, if I'm incorrect, but this is not for hotels, bed and breakfast, is only for Airbnb, short-term rentals, correct?
But hotels, motels, and inns advertise on short-term rental websites.
Right, so, yeah, but this regulation is for short-term rentals, which hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts are not. I guess I'm misunderstanding the question.
So I think the question is, do you mind if I
The
try? to-
question is, so our, the computer software that we are wanting to put in place, detects short-term rentals by advertising on their platform, correct? Okay. So hotels, motels, inns, bed and breakfast, they all advertise on that platform.
Mhm.
All right, so how are we going to handle that?
Well, I assume logistically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, they'll be checked against permits, but all motels, bed and breakfasts, motels, other types of lodging have an entirely separate permitting process.
Okay,
So it's like if you're going, like, this is a horrible analogy, but you're going out to catch tuna and you catch a dolphin in there, like, just because there's a dolphin, then you let the dolphin go and you keep the tuna, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's gonna show them everything, but they are gonna parse out only the things that are STRs and check it against to see if it's registered. So hotels, they don't have anything to do with all those other things.
but if they're advertising on the platform and that's what this computer software catches,
Then they
why
they
should-
pull those out. They just go, because this only has to do with STRs. This is
okay,
about STRs advertising as opposed to anybody advertising.
okay, all right. And the other thing I noticed on page 5 from the old ordinance, section 15, owner occupied can, property owners can only have one short-term rental within the village and or town.
Unless you are a pre-existing short-term rental operator.
Okay, so that is clear that that's the way that's going to go.
Yes.
Okay,
Is that correct, Stephen? Yes, okay.
okay.
Moving forward, any new permit holder can only.
Yep. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, I think actually that takes care of all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Blakely. Okay, so trustees and select board, do you have any questions or during discussion on the ordinance, not the fees?
I have one question.
Sure.
Page 1, section 2, line 16. Is that, I'm not sure, is that just? I mean, it's an ordinance, so does that just mean we're suggesting this or
So
we're
it's the intent.
the intent?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I'm done.
Trustees, do you have anything? Any other questions?
I know you have a quorum. You have 3 votes.
Okay. Ready to move on to the, that's the fees? Okay. Wanna, oh, look, Greg's here, yay. Talk to us about fees.
Okay, so this is much easier. This is the simple short-term fee schedule that we agreed to last night. It's just the one pager that says this is a short-term fee schedule. So the language up top, just makes the reference to section 9 where the fees are established, that says, that connects this fee schedule to the ordinance, that says this is where it comes from. And then has the short-term rental base annual registration fee for owner occupied, 500, for non-owner occupied, 1,000. Plus we have the maximum occupancy fee, 1 to 4 maximum occupants is 250, 5 to 8 is 1,000, and 9+ is 2,000.
Trustees, do you have any questions? Or is there any discussion on this?
Any select board question, discussion?
No, I'm satisfied.
Welcome. Okay, so I would make a motion for the trustees to approve the ordinance regulate the operation of short-term rentals as presented this morning with the draft from today, from May 2nd. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I would like motion to accept the ordinance, regulate short-term rentals.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, let's move on to the short-term rental fee schedule. So I would make a motion for the village trustees to approve the short-term rental fee schedule as presented this morning. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
And I would entertain a motion to accept the short-term rental fee schedule.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And just for clarity, both those motions, fee schedule, ties to section 9 of the short-term ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you.
To talk to?
Yeah.
Okay, and I just want to make some comments that I want to thank the planning commission for all the hard work last year in the ordinance. Volunteers that gave up their time for research, discuss, prepare legislation for the municipality, and thank them all for their efforts and dedication. I also want to thank the planning and zoning department for working on this, the planning commission, prepping both boards, coordinating the process, and acknowledge that even though this ordinance will add to their workload, they put all their effort into knowing this is the best interest of the municipality.
And I want to thank the select board and the trustees, especially the new people that have come on board and come up to speed so very quickly. It is never easy to get 10 people to work together. 5 is very hard, 10 is even harder. So I appreciate all the time that you put in outside of normal business hours. Being elected is a privilege, but it is also really hard sometimes. And I know that we all get lots of different information at lots of different times. It's very hard to balance the needs of, in our case, 900 people, in the case of the town, 3,000 people. So I appreciate you all doing the hard work, showing up for votes, listening to people, always listening to people, and being willing to compromise. There's been a lot of emotions in this, as well there should be, and being able to say, okay, I can't get everything I want or everything that I think people need, and being able to compromise is super hard. And so I appreciate that you all have been willing to compromise, to listen, to come up with something that we could all agree on. And I know there's going to be a lot of hard conversations and hard decisions down the road. And I think that this just shows that when we put in the time and the effort, we can do this in a respectful way and in a thoughtful way. And also, I'd like to thank Eric for keeping us on track. I know that sometimes we are not easy to deal with. So I appreciate that you answer our texts and our calls and our messages, and of course that of the municipality, all of the people who live here and work here. So thank you for listening to us, for keeping your cool with us, and for keeping us on track.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
And I thank the public for showing up.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
giving us feedback, both in emails and in person, and it helps us do our job better and more representative.
Okay, is there any other business to come before the trustees this morning? In that case, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn for the select board. Do a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And Eric, turn your phone off when you go on vacation.
Yeah.
So, no